The darkness of space stretched endlessly in all directions. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the mining ship New Horizon, watching the stars through the main window. He had been doing this job for 15 years, and the emptiness still amazed him. Out here, between the star systems, there was nothing but cold and silence. "Captain, we're picking up something strange on the long-range scanners," said Pete Rodriguez from his station. Pete was the ship's engineer, a man who knew every bolt and wire on the New Horizon. If Pete said something was strange, it was worth. Listening to Jake walked over to Pete's station and looked at the screen. A large object appeared as a blip on the display, much bigger than any asteroid they usually found out here. "How far away is it?" "About 2 hours at current speed." "It's not moving, just drifting." "The size readings are off the charts, Captain. This thing is huge." Jake felt a familiar excitement in his chest. After years of mining boring asteroids, they might have found something interesting. Change course. "Let's go take a look." The New Horizon turned toward the mysterious object. Jake called Dr. Lisa Carter to the bridge. Lisa was their science officer, a woman who got excited about anything she had never seen before. She arrived quickly, her dark hair pulled back and her eyes bright with curiosity. "What have we found?" she asked, looking at the scanner display. "Something big," Jake said. "Bigger than anything we've seen out here." As they got closer, the object became visible through the main window. It was a ship, but unlike any ship Jake had ever seen. The hull was dark gray, almost black, and covered with strange patterns that looked like they had been carved into the metal. The ship was massive, at least twice the size of Earth's biggest military vessels. "It's dead," said Amy Brooks, the ship's security chief. Amy was a practical woman who always expected trouble. "No power readings, no heat, no radio signals. That thing has been floating out here for a long time." Lisa pressed her face against the window, staring at the alien ship. "Look at those patterns on the hull. They're not random. There's a design. They're like writing or symbols." Jake studied the patterns. They seemed to flow across the ship's surface like water, creating shapes that hurt his eyes to look at directly. "Any idea what kind of ship this is?" "Nothing in our databases," Pete said. "The metal doesn't match any known materials. Whatever built this, it wasn't human." The alien ship drifted silently in space, dark and lifeless. Jake made his decision. "We're going aboard. Lisa, Pete, Amy, suit up. We're taking the shuttle over for a closer look." Lisa grinned. Finally, something interesting. 30 minutes later, their shuttle approached the alien vessel. Up close, the ship was even more impressive. The hull stretched away in both directions, disappearing into the darkness. The strange patterns seemed to shift and move when Jake wasn't looking directly at them. "Where do we dock?" Pete asked, piloting the shuttle around the ship's exterior. "There." Lisa pointed to what looked like a smooth section of hull. "That area looks different from the rest." Pete brought the shuttle close to the hull. They attached their docking tube and tried to make a seal, but the alien metal was too smooth. Nothing would stick to it. "We'll have to cut our way in," Amy said, checking her equipment. "I brought the plasma cutter." They suited up in their space gear and floated over to the hull. Amy fired up the plasma cutter, its bright blue flame hot, enough to cut through any known metal. She pressed it against the alien hull and waited. Nothing happened. "The metal didn't even get warm." "That's impossible," Amy said. "This thing cuts through titanium like butter." Pete tried his laser drill. The beam bounced off the hull harmlessly. Lisa used her sample cutter, designed to slice through the hardest asteroids. The alien metal didn't even scratch. "How are we supposed to get inside?" Jake asked. Lisa floated closer to the hull, running her gloved hands over the strange patterns. These markings, they're beautiful. Look how they connect to each other. She pulled out a small knife to scrape a sample from the hull. The blade was sharp, but as she pressed it against the metal, it slipped. The knife cut through her glove and sliced her finger. "Careful," Amy said, floating over to help. Lisa pulled off her glove to check the cut. A few drops of blood floated in the zero gravity, drifting toward the alien hull. When the blood touched the metal, everything changed. Patterns on the hull began to glow with a soft blue light. The glow spread outward from where the blood had touched, racing across the ship's surface like electricity. Lines appeared in the metal, creating shapes that looked like doorways and windows. "What did you do?" Pete asked, his voice full of wonder. "I don't know," Lisa said, staring at her bleeding finger. "The blood? It did something to the ship." The blue light grew brighter. A section of the hull near them began to iris open, creating a perfect circular doorway. Air rushed out of the opening, creating a small wind in the vacuum of space. "The ship is pressurizing," Jake said, checking his instruments. "It's making atmosphere." Amy drew her weapon. "This could be a trap, or an invitation," Lisa said. She looked at the glowing patterns, now pulsing gently like a heartbeat. The ship recognized human DNA. It's been waiting for us. Jake stared at the open doorway. Warm light spilled out from inside, and he could see a corridor stretching away into the alien vessel. After 800 years of drifting dead in space, the ship was coming alive. "We're going in," he decided. "But we stay together, and we're ready for anything." They floated through the opening into the alien ship. The corridor was just the right size for humans to walk through comfortably. The walls glowed with the same blue light, and the patterns seemed to guide them deeper into the ship. Behind them, the New Horizon waited in the darkness, its crew unaware that their captain and his team had just awakened something that had been sleeping among the stars for centuries. The alien ship hummed with new life, its ancient systems responding to the presence of human DNA. For the first time in nearly 1,000 years, something that had been waiting patiently in the cold of space was finally ready to reveal its secrets to the species it had been built to serve. The corridor stretched ahead of them, glowing with soft blue light. Jake Morrison led his team deeper into the alien ship, their footsteps echoing in the strange metal hallway. The walls seemed to pulse gently, like they were walking inside. "Living thing." "The air is breathable," Lisa Carter said, checking her scanner. "Temperature is perfect for humans. It's like the ship knows exactly what we need." Pete Rodriguez ran his hand along the wall. "The metal is warm. These patterns, they're not just decorations. I think they're some kind of power system." Amy Brooks kept her weapon ready, watching every shadow. "This feels too easy. Why would an alien ship be designed for humans?" They came to a junction where the corridor split into 3 directions. As they stood there deciding which way to go, the patterns on the walls began to shift. The blue light grew brighter in the center corridor, as if the ship was showing them the way. "It wants us to go that way," Lisa said, pointing toward the lit passage. "Ships don't want things," Amy replied. "This is just a machine responding to our presence." Jake studied the glowing corridor. "Machine or not, it's our best lead. Let's follow the lights." They walked down the center corridor for 10 minutes. The passage gradually widened, and the ceiling grew higher. Soon they entered a vast chamber that took their breath away. The room was enormous, bigger than any space Jake had ever seen inside a ship. The walls curved upward, disappearing into darkness above. All around them, massive crystal formations jutted from the floor and walls, each one taller than a person. The crystals were dark, but as the humans entered the chamber, they began to glow with the same blue light as the corridors. "Incredible," Lisa whispered. "These crystals, they're responding to us just like the ship's hull did." Pete walked up to one of the larger crystals. It was smooth and clear, about 8 feet tall. "What do you think they are?" "Storage," Lisa said, her voice full of excitement. "Data storage. These crystals could hold information." Amy remained suspicious. "Or they could be weapons. We don't know what this ship was built for." Jake activated his communication device. Morrison to New Horizon. "We need backup down here. Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we've found something big." The reply came back immediately. "Captain, we're already sending a message." "But sir, you need to see this. The ship is changing." "What do you mean changing?" "More sections are lighting up. The whole ship is coming alive. And Captain, we're detecting other ships approaching. 3 vessels. All human." Jake felt a mix of excitement and worry. "How long until they arrive?" 6 hours for the closest one. "It's the research vessel Endeavor, with a full science team." Jake looked around at the crystal chamber. "Good. We're going to need all the help we can get." Lisa had moved closer to one of the crystals. She reached out and touched its surface. The moment her hand made contact, the crystal flared with bright light. Images flashed through her mind, so quickly she couldn't process them all. She saw alien beings, tall and thin with large eyes. She saw vast cities under strange suns. She saw ships like this one, like many of them, flying through space in great fleets. And she saw something else, something dark and terrible that made her pull her hand away with a gasp. "Lisa, what happened?" Jake asked, rushing to her side. "I saw them," she said, her voice shaking. "The beings who built this ship. They were called the Architects, and they were running from something." Pete had been examining the base of another crystal. "Jake, come look at this." There are symbols carved into the floor around each crystal. Jake knelt down and studied the markings. They were different from the patterns on the walls, more like writing. "Can you read them?" "Some of them look familiar," Lisa said, still recovering from her experience with the crystal. "I think they're star maps. These symbols, they match constellations we know." Amy had been exploring the edges of the chamber. "There are more rooms back here. Lots of them. This ship is like a floating city." Over the next few hours, they explored more of the ship. Each room they entered came to life as they approached. They found laboratories filled with strange equipment, libraries with crystalline books, and workshops containing tools made from unknown materials. Everything was designed for beings taller than humans, but as they spent more time in each room, the furniture and equipment began to adjust itself. Chairs lowered to human height. Control panels moved to where human hands could reach them. The ship was adapting to its new occupants. "It's learning about us," Lisa observed. "Every minute we're here, it understands us better." The Endeavor arrived, as scheduled, bringing Dr. Ben Hayes, a language expert, and Carol Williams, a computer specialist. They docked with the alien ship using the same method Jake's team had discovered. A few drops of blood from Dr. Hayes opened another entrance. "The ship is responding to all human DNA," Lisa explained to the newcomers. "It's like it was designed to recognize our species." Carol Williams was amazed by the ship's computer systems. "These crystals aren't just storage devices. They're quantum computers, more advanced than anything we have. But they need human bioelectric fields to operate." Dr. Hayes worked on translating the symbols they had found. "The language is complex, but I'm starting to understand it. The word architect appears everywhere. And there's another word that keeps coming up. It translates roughly as the inheritors." "Inheritors of what?" Jake asked. "I'm not sure yet. But Captain, I think this ship was left here for us, for humanity specifically." That night, as the combined teams rested in the ship's quarters, which had perfectly adjusted to human needs, Jake stood in the crystal chamber. The blue light pulsed gently around him. and he could feel the ship's presence like a living thing. Lisa joined him, still fascinated by the crystals. I've been thinking about what I saw when I touched that crystal. The architects weren't just running from something. They were preparing for something. What kind of preparation? They were looking for a species that could succeed where they failed. They studied hundreds of different races across the galaxy, but they kept coming back to one species, us. Jake looked at the towering crystals surrounding them. Why us? What makes humans special? I don't know yet. But Jake, I think, we're about to find out. This ship, it's not just a tomb or a museum. It's a gift and a test. The alien ship hummed around them, its ancient systems fully awakened after centuries of sleep. In the depths of its crystalline memory banks, the knowledge of an entire civilization waited to be discovered. But with that knowledge came a terrible responsibility that humanity was not yet ready to understand. Outside, in the cold darkness of space, the New Horizon and the Endeavor waited while their crews unlocked the secrets of the architects. None of them knew that their actions had set in motion events that would change the fate of every living thing in the galaxy. 3 days had passed since the teams began exploring the alien ship. Jake Morrison stood in what they had come to call the archive chamber, watching Dr. Ben Hayes work with the crystalline computers. The room was massive, filled with thousands of crystals that now glowed brightly in response to human presence. I've made a breakthrough, Ben announced, his voice echoing in the vast space. The ship's main computer is trying to communicate with us. Carl Williams looked up from her workstation. The quantum systems are incredible. They're not just storing data, they're storing actual memories, experiences from the beings who built this ship. Lisa Carter approached one of the larger crystals. Over the past few days, she had learned to touch them without being overwhelmed by the visions. Show us what you found. Ben placed his hands on a crystal panel. The air above it shimmered, and suddenly a holographic image appeared. It showed one of the architects, tall and graceful with large silver eyes. When it spoke, the ship's computer translated its words into English. We are the architects of the third spiral, the image said. We have watched the rise and fall of 1,000 civilizations. We have seen the birth of stars and the death of worlds. And we have seen the coming of the silence. Amy Brooks, who had been examining weapon systems in another part of the ship, joined the group. The silence? What's that? The hologram continued. The silence comes to every galaxy in time. It devours everything. Stars, planets, life itself. We have fought it for 10,000 years, but we are failing. Our people are dying. Our worlds are lost. Pete Rodriguez had been studying the ship's engineering systems. Captain, you need to see this. The weapons on this ship, they're beyond anything we've ever imagined. Energy cannons that can destroy entire fleets. Shields that can protect against star-level explosions. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Why are you showing us this? The hologram of the architect looked directly at him, as if it could see him across the centuries. Because you are the ones we have been waiting for, the inheritors of our legacy. Another image appeared, showing human beings in their early stages of development. We found your species millions of years ago, when you were still primitive. But we saw something in your genetic code that we had never seen before. Something that made us believe you could succeed where we failed. Lisa stepped closer to the hologram. What did you see in us? Adaptability beyond any other species. The ability to change, to evolve, to become something new when faced with impossible challenges. We have observed you for ages, watching you grow, waiting for you to reach the stars. Carol's computer screens filled with data. The ship is downloading information directly into our systems. Star maps, technology blueprints, historical records. There's enough knowledge here to advance human civilization by thousands of years. Ben translated more of the architect's message. They didn't just leave us technology, they left us a mission. The silence operates on a cycle. It devours one galaxy, then moves to the next. It takes about 1,000 years to consume everything in a galaxy. When will it reach us? Jake asked. The hologram showed a star map with a dark wave moving across it. The silence has already begun to enter your galaxy. It will reach the outer systems within 90 years. The inner worlds, including your Earth, have perhaps 150 years. Amy gripped her weapon tighter. How do we fight something that destroys entire galaxies? The architects tried everything, Ben said, reading from the crystal records. Massive fleets, planet-killing weapons, even attempts to hide in other dimensions. Nothing worked. The silence adapted to every strategy, overcame every defense. Pete had been studying the ship's construction. But this ship is different. It's not just a weapon or an archive. It's designed to bond with its crew, to change them. Lisa touched another crystal, and more images flowed into her mind. She saw the final days of the architect's civilization, their last desperate attempt to find a solution. They built this ship as a test. If humanity could awaken it, if we could interface with their technology, then maybe we have the qualities they need. What qualities? Jake asked. The ability to become something new. The architects were too rigid, too set in their ways. They couldn't evolve fast enough to match the silence. But humans ... we change, we adapt. We become whatever we need to become to survive. Carol's screens showed more data streaming in. The ship is offering to merge with us, to combine human consciousness with architect technology. But it's not just the ship, it's the entire civilization. Their knowledge, their memories, their experiences. All of them? Amy asked. The last survivors uploaded themselves into the ship's computers before their final world fell. They're still here, waiting to guide us. Jake walked to the center of the chamber, looking up at the thousands of crystals surrounding them. So this is our choice. Accept their gift and become something new, or face the silence with just our own technology. Ben nodded. The ship can enhance human abilities, but it requires a permanent bond. Those who accept the merger will become part human, part architect. They'll gain incredible powers, but they'll also carry the responsibility of defending all. Life in the galaxy. Lisa looked at her teammates. It's not just about us anymore. Every living thing in the galaxy depends on this choice. Pete had been quiet, studying the engineering data. The ship can reproduce itself. If we accept the merger, it can build more ships like this one. We could create a fleet. A fleet crewed by humans who have bonded with architect technology. Carol added, super soldiers designed specifically to fight the silence. Amy considered the implications. What about the rest of humanity? The people who don't want to change? The hologram of the architect spoke again. The choice belongs to each individual. But know this, the silence cannot be fought with conventional weapons. Only by becoming something new can you hope to succeed where we failed. Jake felt the weight of decision pressing down on him. Around them, the ship hummed with energy, its systems fully awakened and ready. The crystals pulsed with the stored consciousness of an entire civilization, waiting to share their knowledge with humanity. How long do we have to decide? He asked. The ship will wait, Ben translated. But the silence moves closer every day. Eventually, the choice will be made for us. Lisa walked to the largest crystal in the chamber. I want to see more. I want to understand exactly what we're facing. She placed both hands on the crystal's surface. This time, instead of brief flashes, she experienced a full vision. She saw the silence in all its terrible glory, a wave of darkness that consumed everything in its path. She saw the final battle of the architects, their greatest heroes falling. before an enemy that seemed unstoppable. But she also saw something else, a possibility that the architects had never considered. A way to fight the silence that required not just advanced technology, but the uniquely human ability to hope against impossible odds. When she opened her eyes, tears were streaming down her face. "I know what we have to do," she said. "But first, we need to get this ship back to Earth. Humanity deserves to know what's coming, and they deserve to make their own choice about our future." The ship around them pulsed with agreement, ready to carry its human inheritors home to begin the greatest challenge in the history of life itself. The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks. During that time, the alien ship continued to reveal its secrets to Jake Morrison and his crew. The vessel had learned to navigate through space on its own, following the star maps in its memory banks. It moved faster than any human ship, bending space around itself in ways that Earth scientists had only dreamed about. Lisa Carter spent most of her time in the archive chamber, communicating with the stored consciousness of the architects. She had become the bridge between human and alien minds, translating concepts that had no words in any human language. "They're excited," she told Jake one morning as they watched Earth grow larger in the main window. "The architects never expected to find a species like us. We think differently than they do." "How so?" Jake asked. "They planned everything. Every move, every strategy, every battle against the silence was carefully calculated. But we're spontaneous. We take risks. We do things that don't make logical sense. And sometimes it works." Pete Rodriguez had been working with the ship's engineering systems. The ship wants to build more of itself. It's been scanning Earth's resources, figuring out what materials it needs. It could construct an entire fleet in a matter of months. Amy Brooks remained cautious. "What's the catch?" "There's always a catch with this kind of power." Ben Hayes looked up from his translation work. "A merger changes you permanently. Once you bond with the ship, you can never be fully human again. You'll live longer, think faster, but you'll also carry the memories of every architect who ever lived." Carl Williams had been studying the ship's database. "I've found records of other species the architects tried to help. Most of them refused the merger. They wanted to fight the silence with their own technology." "What happened to them?" Jake asked. "They were all consumed. The silence adapted to every weapon, every defense. Only species that accepted the merger had any chance of survival." As Earth came into view, Jake felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. Soon, he would have to explain to the leaders of humanity that their species faced extinction unless they chose to become something new. The ship entered Earth's solar system without triggering any alarms. Its technology was so advanced that human sensors couldn't detect it. Only when Jake opened communications with Earth Command did anyone know they had returned. "This is Captain Morrison aboard the alien vessel, requesting permission to dock with Luna Station." The response came back immediately. "Captain Morrison, this is Admiral Clark. The entire fleet is mobilizing." "What is your situation?" "We need to talk, Admiral. All of humanity needs to hear what we've learned." 3 days later, Jake stood before the United Earth Council in Geneva. Behind him, a holographic display showed images from the alien ship. The council members sat in stunned silence as he told them about the architects and the approaching silence. "You're asking us to trust alien technology," said Councilor Martinez, "to change the fundamental nature of our species." "I'm asking you to survive," Jake replied. "The silence will be here within a century. Our current technology won't stop it." Dr. Elena Vasquez, Earth's leading scientist, studied the data they had brought back. "The genetic modifications are extensive. Those who accept the merger will become stronger, faster, more intelligent. But they'll also become something that's no longer entirely human." Lisa stepped forward. I've experienced the merger process. It doesn't destroy who you are. It adds to who you are. You keep your memories, your personality, your humanity. But you gain the knowledge and abilities needed to fight the silence. And if we refuse? Asked Counselor Chun. Ben Hayes activated another holographic display. The silence has consumed 47 galaxies. In every case, species that refused the merger were completely destroyed. No survivors, no trace that they ever existed. The debate continued for hours. Some council members wanted to accept the architect's gift immediately. Others demanded more time to study the technology. A few insisted that humanity should face the silence with their own strength, whatever the cost. Finally, Admiral Clark spoke. We need volunteers. People willing to undergo the merger process and show us what we're choosing between. Lisa raised her hand. I'll go first. So will I, said Pete. Amy nodded. Count me in. Ben and Carol agreed as well. One by one, Jake's original team volunteered to be the first humans to bond with architect technology. They returned to the alien ship, which now hung in orbit around Earth like a second moon. The vessel had grown during their absence, constructing new sections and systems. It was preparing to build more ships, waiting only for humanity's decision. In the ship's central chamber, the merger process began. Lisa was the first to step into the crystalline pod that would change her forever. As the alien technology flowed into her body, she felt her consciousness expanding. She gained access to memories that spanned millions of years, knowledge that encompassed entire civilizations, but she remained Lisa Carter. Her love for discovery, her curiosity about the universe, her care for her friends, all of that stayed the same. The merger had made her more than human, but it had not made her less human. One by one, the others followed. Pete gained an understanding of engineering that surpassed anything humanity had ever achieved. Amy became a warrior with reflexes and strength beyond human limits. Ben could speak and understand any language in the galaxy. Carol could interface directly with computer systems using only her thoughts. When the process was complete, they returned to Earth to show the world what they had become. The changes were visible, but not frightening. Their eyes held a silver gleam, and their movements were more graceful than before. They looked like humans who had reached their full potential. We're still ourselves, Lisa told the gathered crowd. But now we have the tools to protect not just humanity, but all life in the galaxy. The debate that followed lasted for months. Some humans chose to undergo the merger, becoming the first of a new kind of being. Others remained unchanged, preferring to keep their original form. The alien ship built more vessels, creating a fleet that could defend the galaxy against the silence. Jake Morrison, now changed by the merger, stood on the bridge of the lead ship as the fleet prepared to depart. Earth was safe, protected by those who had chosen to remain. The enhanced humans would seek out the silence and make their stand among the stars. Are you ready? Lisa asked, joining him at the command station. Jake looked out at the stars, knowing that somewhere in the darkness, the silence was coming. The architects failed because they couldn't change. But we can. We'll adapt, we'll evolve, we'll become whatever we need to become. And if we fail, then we'll fail as humans. But I don't think we will. The architects gave us their knowledge, but they couldn't give us their courage. That's something we had to bring ourselves. The fleet moved out from Earth's solar system, carrying humanity's children to face the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known. Behind them, Earth spun peacefully in space, home to those who had chosen to remain unchanged. Ahead of them lay the unknown, and the first real test of what humanity could become when faced with impossible odds. The ship that had stayed dead for 800 years now pulsed with new life, its human crew ready to write the next chapter. In the history of the galaxy, the silence was coming. but it would find that humanity was ready to meet it with weapons forged from both ancient wisdom and uniquely human determination.